Have you ever given someone your phone number just to get away from them because your no doesn't seem to be enough? So you just have that yes so that at the end of the day it becomes easy just to block them. Hello and welcome to Future Husband Diaries. My name is Maya Onesis Swanda and welcome to the girl who's been returning and who's been watching with us, to the girl who's been healing with us, who's been journaling with us, who's been praying with us. Welcome. And to the girl who's new to the platform, welcome, girl. And I hope that you like, subscribe, and share with the girl that you think will definitely benefit from this. Let's be these held girls that are out there who actually share with other girls. And let's not be selfish with the information that we get. Share it with someone that you think would definitely benefit from others. So our topic today is coming from, I said no, shouldn't that be enough? I saw this other video which was talking about how no is enough. It's a complete sentence. Me just saying no. And there was this other one, there was this TikTok that was actually saying how to say no in a Christian manner. I was, at the edge of my seat trying to understand, how do you say no in a Christian manner? And they just said no. And that was enough. So the question just came to me and I asked myself, how do we say no? Sometimes we say no and sometimes it's not enough. You get to a point where you feel pressured to say yes, because if you say no, we get to be classified, especially as women, we get to be classified as we're being difficult, we're being mean, because we are setting up boundaries. So how do you go about it? What is it that you should do? Saying no as a Christian girl is actually a little bit hard, because most of the times you'll be thinking, okay, if I say no, other people would think I'm being rude. Other people would think I'm mean. I'll be characterized as a person who's not Christian-like because I'm saying no. So at the end of the day, we end up working ourselves, saying yes and yes and yes to things, and we get to a point where we are exhausted. I used to do that, where I'll actually say yes to everything. Someone asked me, can you do this? Yes. Can you do this? Yes. Can you do this? Yes. And with all of that, I was hoping it would if I continue saying yes, it would get to a point where people actually realize how wonderful I am, what kind of a nice person that I am. And they'll get to a point where I'll be like, okay, it's fine. We have asked a lot from her. We'll stop asking her, because even though we know she's going to say yes, but it doesn't stop there. Get to a point where, because you have said yes, more questions come in and they expect more from you. At the end of the day, you are exhausted because you are working yourself to the bone trying to say yes and yes and yes and yes and yes. Okay, before we get into how setting up your boundaries can be like, it can also trickle down from dating. Have you ever been asked a phone number? Like someone is asking or will persistently asking you out. Maybe you just met the person, or this person is in a taxi and this person keeps on asking you for a phone number, keeps on asking and asking and asking. You get to a point where you be like, okay, I'm just going to give it to you. Not because I want to give it to you, but I feel like I don't like to be confrontational at this point and continue saying no. But if I give you my number and you text me, I'm not going to reply to you. I'm just going to block you, and that will be the end of it. But that's not how it is, because yes, you might not see that person ever again, and that might be okay in that situation. Yes, but it's a characteristic flaw that we have, where we actually say we are being squeezed into saying yes. Some other times you find yourself in spaces where you do not want to be, all because of this. It starts small. Someone is asking you out, you just say yes because you don't want to be rude, but then you ghost them or you block them. At the end of the day, it grows up until it becomes like a big thing, where you actually, even in the big things in your life, you cannot say no. All you have to do is you say yes because you want other people to like you. And all of this usually happens because of how much you want to be people pleasers. I am a recovering people pleaser. I am. I used to get to a point where everything was just yes. Can you do this? Yes. Can you do that? Yes. I was always saying yes, 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 without actually looking at whether I have the capacity to keep on going. I have the capacity to keep on pushing. I have the capacity to, pour out and give you what I have. And then at some point in my life, I started to pour from an empty cup, and I'll get exhausted. And it wasn't even okay for me, because at the end of the day, I end up not looking at myself like, what is it that I need? And I just start pouring out to other people. So what is it that you should do? You should make sure that you understand yourself. Do not pour from an empty cup. Make sure that you ask the Lord to pour into you. Let the Lord pour into you first. That scenario whenever they're always talking about how people, whenever they're helping people in an emergency, they should always put on their masks first before they try to help someone else. Because if you're trying to help someone else without putting on your mask first, what is it that is going to happen? You're going to faint along the way while you're trying to put that person's mask on. But if you just take a mask, put it on you, you make sure that you have the capacity to keep on pouring, and you'll find yourself even pouring into even more people than you actually anticipated. So what is it? You need to make sure that the Lord pours into you first. Have that me time. Have those boundaries that you have in your life where you actually say, this is my boundary. This is what I consider to be me, and this is what I am going to do, and all of those things. Have like that boundary. So what is it that you do? Have like that boundary where you say, maybe in the morning, if someone calls me at 6 to 8, that's my me time. That's my me time. That's when I get to journal. That's when I get to speak to God. That's when I get to listen to worship music. That's when, that's when God is really pouring into me in the morning. And if God has poured into me, then after 8, I can start pouring into other people. And if you put that boundary right, people will actually understand. But the problem is we make up those boundaries. At the end of the day, we do not follow up on those boundaries, because you'll be like, okay, please don't call me at 8 in the morning. I'm not going to pick up. And then I call you, you pick up. Now you are, you're being wishy-washy, because you are not exactly following up to the kinds of boundaries that you set up for yourself. Have boundaries and set those boundaries straight. Example, someone is asking you out and you do not like this person. There's no way where you have to think about it. Number one, you do not like this person. You're not going to date this person, maybe because you know of the characteristics that you're looking for in a man, and this person is definitely not there. This person doesn't really fit the bill, number one. For example, this person is not even Christian, and that is something that is instilled in you, or that is something that you really, really prioritize. Number one, this person has to be Christian. Number one, this person comes in asking you out. This person is not a Christian. And then I'm like, no, I'll give you an answer. Come back tomorrow. What? No. The answer is no, girl. Tell that person, no, I will not date you. No. And I was seeing this where there was a problem it's not a problem, where this guy was saying the problem that we have is we end with a no and start with an excuse. Then at the end of the day, that person starts asking, why not? Why not? So if someone be like, okay, I'm asking you out, can you go out with me? This person is not even Christian, so I'm not going to, my boundary says I'm not going to date someone who's not a Christian. So what is it that I'm going to do? You don't say, I will not, you can't say, you are a lovely person, you are a good person, but I will not date you. Do you know what they're going to say afterwards? Why not? Then you start to keep on making excuses, and then they keep on saying, why not, why not? At the end of the day, you're going to be forced into it, and then you say yes at the end of the day. But start your answer with a no. No, I will not date you because my boundaries are I date only Christians, and you're not Christian. And even if you are to turn and just change now and say you're going to be Christian. I know you will not be doing it for God, or you will not be doing it out of the goodness of your heart, but it is something that you'll be doing just to impress me and come in. So no, my answer is still no. And you stand by it. Do not be wishy-washy, be like, oh, maybe if you change and become a Christian. No, girl. Don't try to, what is it called? It's what evangelistic dating. I don't know what the word is. I will remember the word. But like, you are dating so as to convert that person into becoming Christian. No, that would not work. Because at the end of the day, if you really notice, most of the times, if you are to break up with that person, right, then what is it that they'll do? They'll go back to whoever they were before, because they were doing this just to impress you. And sometimes you're not even sure whether they did this because they wanted to impress me, or they did this because of who they are. Now, let them become Christian. After they've become Christian, then you can date them. But then do not try to make it as a condition, like, if you want to date me, no. So start with a no. And don't give in excuses so that that person starts to change and modify themselves to suit whatever it is that you want. So set boundaries. Say no. No is a complete sentence. No, full stop. I will not date you because of this. Right? Because there's other things. If we develop these things at a smaller scale, we'll actually get them at a bigger scale. And we'll actually make sure that we mend our character flaws in such a way that we do not pour out from an empty cup. There are some situations where you find yourself serving in ministry, and you serve yourself up until the bone. You're always serving and always serving. But at the end of the day, you do not feel like you are being, you're being empowered, or you do not feel like God is pouring into you. Why? Because we are making sure that other people are served without actually making sure that we are served first, so we can actually pour out from ourselves. So put those boundaries up. There are some boundaries, that might seem, to other people, these boundaries might seem like you're just being rude, or you're just being petty, or just being picky. But make sure that you stand by them. If it's something that is important to you, stand by it. If maybe you do not like it when someone continually texts you, do not reply. You tell them, I do not like it when you continually text me like this, so I'll not reply. And then you do not reply. Make sure that they understand the consequences of actually doing that. And you don't have to be rude about it and say like, these are my boundaries. No. Say it in a nice way, in such a way that the other person actually understands. So that at the end of the day, there is not that thing where you're actually being mean, you're actually being rude, or all these other things. You're actually making sure that the communication is set up right. Even with your friends, have the boundaries with your friends. Have the boundaries with the person you're dating. Have the boundaries with your family. There are some things where, even if they're just aches, make sure that you set up the boundaries that you need in your life. And do not be one of those wishy-washy persons in such a way like, okay, I'll say yes now. And then after I'm like, no, I'm not going to make it because I'm like focusing on myself. I'm like putting up my boundaries. No, don't do it like that. Actually tell them from straight up, I'm not going to do this, right? Because this and this and that. And that'll be the end of it. So that's all that you have to do, and make sure that your no continues to be a no. That's all you have to make sure. So that's all that I had for you today. I had more from this topic. I had more. But then the problem is electricity just went. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But yeah, that's the end of it all. So I hope that you enjoy. Like, subscribe, and share it to someone that you think would definitely benefit from this. See you next time. Bye.